So very good evening to all of you. In our last lecture, we completed bryophyte. Today we are going to focus on pteridophyte, which is also known as the vascular cryptogam. So pteridophytes are unique of its own kind, and they are the most evolved cryptogamous plant. You can say that they are a step ahead of cryptogams towards being phanerogams. So we will know its difference with the other cryptogams, and also we should compare it with the phanerogams to understand what is special about it. So this is the seedless vascular plant. Although it is a vascular plant, it doesn't have the seed. Here, pteron means feather. This name of pteridophyta is majorly due to the leaf structure they have. These plants generally have a leaf structure which is very much similar to the feather of the bird. You can see here this type of leaf. And they are the plants which were predominating in Jurassic age. आप अगर Jurassic Park की movies देखोगे, you can see lot of this type of plants. Okay, they are the first complete land plant which can survive reproductive stages without water. Obviously, all organisms require water. We cannot survive without water, but for reproduction, they do not require water. So let us know much about them. They can be showing much variation in the form. They can be very small. They can be tree also. Some of them can be annual. That means they can grow for a year and then they die. And some of them can be perennial trees. Trees are also possible in this case. Now, some member can be aquatic, for example, Azolla, then Marcellia. These are all Azolla and Marcellia is a aquatic pteridophyte, and Salvinia, Isoetus, these are also there. But some of them can be xerophyte also. Actually, this Selaginella rupestris is known as resurrection plant. आपको इसको देख के नहीं लग रहा है कि ये मर चुका होगा?
Yes.
But let me tell you, it is very much living in favorable condition. जब भी होता है in desert, it stays like this in unfavorable condition. Even if slight moisture is there, it comes up and bloom like this. So that's why resurrection means rebirth, no? That's why this plant is called resurrection plant. In India, it is like 500 species of fern and 100 species of fern allies are there. And you can see that 191 genera and 1000 species are there. These data is as per 2015, so obviously it number must have increased, but there is one twist in the story. Many pteridophytes are at risk, and many of them are critically endangered due to human intervention. So who knows, the number must have decreased also. So we will now talk about the characteristics of pteridophytes. It is actually a diplohaplodic stage it has, because diploid phase is predominating. Gametophyte is very small and it is dependent on the sporophyte. You can see here the Archegonium and Antheridium is present. So the first remarkable change it has from the bryophyte is the main plant here is sporophyte, not the gametophyte. Okay. In xylem, the vessel is absent, and in phloem, companion cell is absent, but it has xylem and phloem. The sporangium can be homosporous or heterosporous. I told you previously also, if it is homosporous, in that case, you will have what I can say. In that case, you will have
Similar type of stems.
Similar type of plant. That means in the same plant you will have male and female both reproductive part. Heterosporous means male gametophyte will be different and female gametophyte will be different. These sporangias are produced in a group which is called sori. Here in this leaf, at the back side of leaf, can you see the round structures? Brown colored. These
Yes.
structures are nothing
Yes,
but the sori. They are the sori. Okay. Now the stems and roots have apex, that is like apical part which is permanently growing, and generally they have herbaceous stem, but let me tell you some of them can be tree also. The leaf can be scaly. For example, in equisetum you have yes beta.
Ma'am, herbaceous means?
It is a very soft stem which cannot stand erect. Herbaceous plant. So leaves are generally scaly. In equisetum, the scaly leaf is present. In some cases, it is sessile, and in some cases, it is petiolated. Let me talk about these three things. See, generally, we are used to see leaves like this, no? With a stalk. Class, can you see this drawing?
Yes, ma'am.
We
Yes,
are
ma'am.
more habituated to see this type of leaf structure. This is called petiole. So petiole is responsible for attaching the leaf with the stem. So if petiole is there, the leaf is called petiolated. If leaf is attached to stem directly, no petiole is there, we call them sessile. So here in this case, you can see if this is the mid leaf or the stem, leaves do not have any kind of attachment stalk. So that's why we call them sessile leaf. Here the leaves are scaly. It's like hair-like leaves are there. And in adentum, the leaf are having petiole. So all kind of diversity is present in case of pteridophyte leaves. So there is one special thing that is present in pteridophytes. It is present in gymnosperm also in some cases. This is called circinate vernation. So at young stage, the leaf is coiled like this. As long as it is getting mature, the coiling opens and it is then spread like this. Okay, so this is called circinate vernation. The leaf structure can be of two types. One is microphyllous and macrophyllous. In some pteridophytes, leaves are very small. There is no leaf gap actually, which is present in lycopodium. That means leaves are like this. More like a hair. Yes, Rutu.
मैम वो जो लीव्स ऐसे इनिशियल स्टेज में ऐसे कॉइल हो जाते हैं उसका कोई स्पेसिफिक रीजन है?
No, there is no specific reason as such that opens up in maturity. Many a time this is observed. This is open due to growth of the leaf. They open up due to cell division.
Okay.
So this is a macrophyllous leaf where in a leaf you can see predominantly जो हमें देखने की आदत है. You can see the leaf margin and leaf base properly. And in microphyllous leaf, it is more like a needle. You cannot see many leaf veins coming here and there. जैसे हमें hibiscus की एक plant लेके उसकी leaf, if you put it under sunlight and look into it, no, or any, you can see the veins coming from the midrib. So that type of things may be present. If it is present, we call that leaf as macrophyllous. If not present, we call the leaf as microphyllous leaf. Okay. So stems are usually branched. The branches are dichotomous. What do we mean by dichotomous branching? In dichotomous branching, in every branch, there are two branches like this. So from here, if branches are coming, it is like this. Every time there will be two branches only. Understood? So this type of branches is called dichotomous branches, and branches do not arise from axils of leaf. So what is axil? These are terminologies, actually you will get more clear idea about them when we will go for the fifth chapter, that is plant morphology. If this is the stem, I don't know if you know about it. These are the branches. Let me draw leaf directly over here. So this is known as terminal position, the tip. Okay, this is known as the axil. Okay, and the part where branching is coming is known as node, और दो नोड के बीच का जो जगह होता है that is called internode. Is this part clear to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
So I request all of you to have a close look into it and confirm. It takes time to understand, no worries about that. Axil terming, because these are the terminologies we are going to use a lot. Axillary position. So the angle is axil, and terminal means tip, and the nodes and internodes are the part from which it is. Yes, Paul.
मैम एक्सेल फिर से रिपीट करो.
It is the angle beta from which branch is coming out. Consider करो एक stem है. If you are considering there is a stem. One branch is coming out of this. This angle is known as axis. Understood?
Yes.
So leaves and stem possess trichomes. So what are these trichomes? Trichomes are nothing but the hair-like structures which is present in leaves and stem. We call them trichomes. Okay. Stomata can be present in both of the surface of the leaf, and they have vascular system composed of xylem phloem. But it is incomplete xylem phloem, as I mentioned earlier. The cambium is absent. Cambium is a tissue which is responsible for thickening of the stem, and this is called secondary growth. So these cambium, due to absence of cambium, the secondary growth is absent in them. We will talk in detail about secondary growth in chapter number 6, that is plant tissue. So this is about xylem and phloem. Xylem, we do not have trachea, so it is majorly made up of tracheids, and vessel, that is trachea, is absent. And phloem is made up of sieve cell, phloem parenchyma, companion cell is absent. And this is so is known to all of us that xylem conduct the water and phloem conduct the food. The thing is that if you talk about microphyllous leaf, there is no tissue differentiation, but in megaphyllous leaf, tissue differentiation is quite prominent. If you take a cross section, you can see various types of cells are present in megaphyllous leaf. So That's all about sporophyte. Now we will talk about gametophyte, which is quite dependent, and it is the part which is actually dependent on sporophyte and quite inconspicuous one. It is having a small sessile antheridia and a small archegonia with 4 row neck cells. But sex organs are multicellular and jacketed, and embryonic stage is present. So before we move ahead for reproduction of pteridophyte, I just want to show you a few characters of pteridophyte. Any doubts, anyone?
No, ma'am.
So video which can describe the characteristics of pteridophyte. I just want to share that video. Give me 1 minute. So we will now have a look into the brief description of pteridophytes.
You have probably seen
I guess the screen is visible to all of you.
ferns growing in gardens or in someone's backyard. Ferns are a type of pteridophyte. Pteridophytes are plants that flourish in a damp, cool and shady habitat, although some species also grow in sandy soil conditions. They occupy a special place in plant evolution, as they were the first terrestrial plants to possess vascular tissues and true root, stem and leaves. The leaves of a pteridophyte are large as in ferns or small as in the case of Selaginella. Pteridophytes are widely used as ornamental plants, soil binders, and for medicinal purposes. Based on the organization of the plant body, including the nature of the leaf and location of sporangia, they are classified as Coelopsida, Lycopsida, Sphenopsida, and Pteropsida. The life cycle of a pteridophyte begins when the plant body, a sporophyte, bears sporangia, which are subtended by leaf-like appendages called sporophylls. However, in some genera like Equisetum, sporophylls might form distinct and compact structures called strobili or cones. The sporangia produce spores in spore mother cells by meiosis, which germinate into gametophytes called prothallus, a small, multicellular, free-living and mainly photosynthetic gametophyte which grows only in cool, damp and shady places. The prothallus also bears the male and female sex organs, the antheridium and archegonium. The antheridium produces the male gametes called antherozoids, whereas the archegonium produces an egg. When released, antherozoids travel through water and eventually reach the mouth of the archegonium, where each one fuses with an egg to form a zygote. This zygote develops into a young embryo, which further develops into a multicellular and well-differentiated young sporophyte, and ultimately into a mature sporophyte. This completes the life cycle of a pteridophyte, which is divided into the gametophytic phase and the sporophytic phase, the most dominant phase. Pteridophytes can be homosporous or heterosporous. Homosporous pteridophytes produce spores of similar kind, while heterosporous pteridophytes produce two different types of spores, large or megaspores and small or microspores. Megaspores germinate into female gametophytes, which produce eggs, while microspores germinate into male gametophytes, which produce antherozoids. The egg and antherozoid fuse to form a zygote, which develops into a young embryo, which then gives rise to a sporophyte. These pteridophytes occupy an important place in the plant kingdom, as they were the first plants to have true roots, stems and leaves, as well as vascular tissues.
I think the video was a useful one, and now the structure and everything is very clear to all of you. Later on we can see the video that is animation, and in that the reproduction is described more vividly. But now I wish to get back to the PPT, and we will talk about the pteridophytes. I guess the screen is visible clearly, beta.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So, unlike bryophytes, where gametophyte is the main plant, in pteridophytes, sporophyte is the main. So, spores are born in on sporophyll, and you can see that they have specialized structure also in some cases. For example, in Salvinia or Marcellia, which are aquatic pteridophytes, they have round structures which sometimes misunderstood as fruit. These are called sporocarps. Okay. Now they can be homosporous or heterosporous, and these are like example. In case of homosporous, only single type of spores will be there, and spores will be small, whereas two types of spores are present. It is a very good electron micrographic image of the heterosporous plant in Silaginella, where you can see two types of sporangium, isn't it? This is megasporangium, which is producing the megaspore, and this is the microsporangium, which is producing the microspore. Is the like photograph visible?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So now, depending on the development, it can be classified into eusporangiate and leptosporangiate. If like sporangium is developed from a group of cells, we call them eusporangiate. Here you can see many cells are there. And if it is developed from single cell, we call it the leptosporangiate. Sporophyll may be either in the form of a strobili or cone. Here you can see, or see, all these are example of different types of strobili. These are strobili, these are strobili, these long structures are nothing but strobili, or they may be uniformly distributed. Like here it is uniformly distributed on the backside of leaf, and you can see such a wide design of sora is possible, isn't it? They are lined here. See, they are uniformly distributed. It's not color. Actually, small sporangiums are distributed like this. Here the pattern is zigzag. Here it is forming a brush border. Here it is not only limited to border, it is like associated at the central part of it. So such beautiful organization of sora can be possible. The spore wall is quite thick, similar to the pollen grain angiosperm have. They have two covering called exine. Outer one is exine and inner one is intine. So spores germinate to give gametophytic generation. Homosporous develop into a gametophyte which is exosporic. That is outside the spore wall the gametophyte is developed. And in heterosporous it is developed inside the spore wall. So then it grows and obviously it is coming out of the spore wall. So here gametophyte and sporophyte are two separate independent plants. कोई physical connection भी दोनों के बीच में नहीं होता है. जैसे bryophyte में you must have noticed at the base grass-like plant is there. It's not like that. They can live their life independently. So this is image of a prothallus and it is monoecious. If it is monoecious, Antheridia and Archegonia will be present in same. So this is the structure of like Antheridium. You can see that these are the cells and here is the gamete. Okay. This is the structure of Antheridium. That was the structure of Antheridium. This is the structure of Archegonium. Similar, here also you can have egg and neck canal cells are there. Ventral canal cells are also there. So basically certain chemicals like malic acid are secreted. That was secreted in bryophyte in the water. In video you observe. Here also there is secretion of mucilage which attract the antherozoids to Archegonium. Water is essential for fertilization, but in some pteridophytes, fertilization by airborne mechanism is also observed. So we cannot say that in all pteridophyte water is essential. So sporophyte, the first cell is zygote, then it divides to form embryo, and the zygote have the basal cell which form foot and root, and apical part form the shoot part of the plant. So it is having heteromorphic alternation of generation. What do we mean by heteromorphic? Because gametophyte is totally different than the sporophyte. That's why we call it heteromorphic alternation of generation. So this is the life cycle of the pteridophyte. I wish to ask you, yes, Ayushi, bolo beta.
Ma'am, what is polarity of embryo?
Yes, Ayushi, can you repeat your question once again?
Ma'am, what is polarity of embryo?
Polarity, actually, you will learn about it in detail in grade 12. In like embryo, there are two poles. That means, अगर ये एक zygote है, इससे जब embryo बनता है, consider करो, row of cell is first formed. Now the basal part is responsible to give rise to root. Okay, and the upper part is responsible to give rise to the shoot. So that is why they say that embryo is having polarity. That means देखने में भले ऐसा लगे कि 4 सेल एक लाइन में खड़े हैं, but those 4 cells are different because they have specific pole to give rise to specific part of plant. Understood, Ayushi?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yes, beta.
मैम एक स्लाइड में आगे लिखा था गेमेटोफाइट इज कॉल्ड प्रोथैलस. मैम वो आप एक बार फिर से रिपीट करें.
Gametophyte और xerophyte.
मैम गेमेटोफाइट था ना.
अच्छा, gametophyte is called prothallus. Yes, gametophyte का जो structure होता है, leafy structure, that is called prothallus. In bryophyte, they have protonema. Here, the flat structure. This is the prothallus. This structure is called prothallus. So what is the specific doubt, beta?
नो मैम एक्चुअली वो स्लाइड मैंने देखी नहीं क्योंकि मेरा नेटवर्क इश्यू था, वो आपने जो बोला ना वही सुना था, इसीलिए
Okay.
सुना ही नहीं दिया.
Okay, no problem, beta. So I just want you people to mention इनमें से कौन सा diploid होगा, कौन सा haploid होगा. What will be this? This will be diploid or haploid? This part. Sporophyte. 2n or n?
मैम 2n.
Very good. So this will be 2n or n?
N.
नहीं.
मैम 2n होगा ना क्योंकि
2n
स्ट्रक्चर तो
होगा.
सेम.
All these are 2n. Here comes the meiosis. Actually, यहाँ पे भी नहीं. It's not here. Here comes the meiosis for gamete production. So this part will be in the gametes. The gametes will be n, and again this will be 2n. So you can see that in life cycle only this part is in, rest is diploid. So that's why we can call it is a diplontic life cycle. Or actually it is called diplohaplontic because we don't need to only rely the image, we need to see the timing also.
मैम
Yes beta.
मैम ये वो 2n कैसे होगा, वो बताओ ना फिर से.
2n ही होगा, वो कैसे होगा मतलब जाइगोट से एम्ब्रियो बनता है, एम्ब्रियो से स्पोरोफाइट बनता है बेटा, तो 2n ही होगा ना. It's not zygospore, it is 2n. You need to remember it in every life cycle. कौन सी cell division mitosis है, कौन सी meiosis है, you need to remember it.
अच्छा, ओके मैम.
है ना? So now we will have a look into the video for reproduction. The same one we like observed for bryophyte. It was a very nice one, and I guess this time also you're going to enjoy and learn a lot. From this video.
Since the earliest of times, ferns have been appreciated for their beauty and have provided shelter and sometimes food. The birth of their young coiled fronds has often been used in artworks such as the toru.
Yes, beta.
आप क्वालिटी थोड़ा इम्प्रूव कर सकते हो.
Let me check.
Ferns are popular in our parks and gardens, and even brought indoors to enhance our living spaces.
Let me reshare.
There are as many as 12,000 species of ferns throughout the world. Some are the size of your fingernail, while others are as tall as a tree. Ferns are popular in our parks and gardens, and even brought indoors to enhance our living spaces. There are as many as 12,000 species of ferns throughout the world. Some are the size of your fingernail, while others are as tall as a tree. In the wild, ferns are successful at reproducing and spreading throughout the forest. They do this by producing spores. The familiar fern is known as a sporophyte. If a fern frond is turned over, small circular areas may be seen. Each of these areas is called a sorus. In some ferns, the sorus is unprotected. In many others, it is covered by a cap, supported by a central stalk. This protective covering is called an indusium. In some ferns, this covering is cup-shaped. The sorus itself contains numerous sac-like structures. Each of these is called a sporangium. The outer wall of the sporangium consists of a layer of protective jacket cells. As the sporangium matures, a row of jacket cells enlarge to form a band known as the annulus. The outer wall of each annular cell is very thin and delicate. On the opposite side of the sporangium, several delicate lip cells form. Below the jacket, there are two layers of cells called the tapetum, which nourish the fertile tissue within. The fertile tissue consists of sporocyte cells. Each sporocyte cell is diploid, containing two sets of chromosomes, one from each parent. As each cell matures, its nucleus divides twice by the process of meiosis. Each daughter nucleus now contains one set of chromosomes. The cytoplasm of the sporocyte undergoes cleavage. This results in a cluster of 4 adhering cells called a tetrad. The tapetum now begins to break down, depositing a very tough protective coat of sporopollenin. Surrounded by this thick resistant wall, each cell is now called a spore. The sporangia are now ready to open. Opening is accomplished by the annulus that encircles the sporangium. The annulus begins to dry out as water evaporates from its surface. The tension or pull between the remaining water molecules and the wall now increases. The thick inner and side walls resist this, but the thin outer walls are easily pulled inward. Pulling in the outer walls causes the annulus to contract much like an accordion. Shortening the annulus tears the lip cells apart. As the annulus continues to shorten, the tear enlarges and the spore case opens further. When too much water is lost, the water molecules are no longer able to hold together. When this happens, the pull on the wall is released. and the annulus springs forward, closing the sporangium so fast that the spores are thrown out. This process is repeated in thousands of sporangia on a leaf, so that large quantities of spores are released. When spores land on a moist surface, those which germinate first will form bisexual or hermaphroditic individuals. A rhizoid emerges and attaches the spore to the soil. This is followed by a sheet of cells, which is the young gametophyte or prothallus. A notch forms on the prothallus that contains dividing cells. This is called the notch meristem. Continued growth results in a heart-shaped bisexual gametophyte. The lower surface is firmly attached to the soil by numerous rhizoids. Male gametangia, called antheridia, are formed at the posterior end of the gametophyte. The outer wall of an antheridium consists of ring cells and a cap cell, which surround fertile tissue. At the anterior end of the prothallus, close to the notch, there are female gametangia called archegonia. An archegonium consists of a neck containing a neck canal cell. At the base of the neck, there is a swollen region called the venter that contains an egg cell. Gametangia of both sexes may be present at the same time or at different times. The timing of their appearance will determine if there will be self-fertilization or cross-fertilization. In some ferns, archegonia are formed first, and when flooded with water, a hormone called antheridiogen is released. This hormone will stimulate adjacent plants to stop growing and form antheridia, but no archegonia. A bisexual gametophyte in a female phase may therefore be surrounded by several male gametophytes, increasing the chances of cross-fertilization. Being close to the soil, the small gametophytes are easily flooded when it rains. This water plays an important role in fertilization. Water stimulates the cap cell on the antheridium to open, releasing the sperm cells. The flagellated sperm are now able to move within the water in search of an egg. Sperm consists of a spiral cell body bearing numerous flagella that move it forward. Water also stimulates the archegonium to open. The contents of the neck canal then diffuse into the surrounding water, where they act as a sperm attractant. The attractant stimulates a sperm to swim towards the open archegonium. It then swims into the opening and moves up the neck canal towards the egg cell. Fertilization is accomplished when the egg and sperm nuclei fuse. This creates a single diploid cell, the zygote. The fertilized egg remains attached to the gametophyte, Inside the archegonium on the lower surface of the gametophyte, the zygote begins to divide, forming the embryo's sporophyte plant. The uppermost part of the embryo, the foot, absorbs nutrients from the surrounding gametophyte tissue. As the embryo grows, the venter tissue stretches and eventually ruptures. A root now grows into the soil for support and to absorb water. Other parts of the embryo form the first leaf and the future stem, the rhizome. The leaf grows through the notch in the gametophyte to reach the sunlight. Eventually, the rhizome emerges and provides additional leaves and roots. In this way, a new plant is formed that matures into another spore-producing fern, completing the reproductive cycle. We have seen that the fern reproductive cycle contains two plants, the large familiar spore plant or sporophyte, and a tiny gamete plant or gametophyte. Using spores to travel great distances and gametes which introduce genetic variability, ferns have spread and evolved throughout the world.
So I don't think after this you will be having any doubt. But if you have, kindly let me know what are the doubts you have. Is this part, reproduction part, clear to you, beta?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So now we will move ahead and talk about.
मैम
Yes, beta.
मैम वो जो एनालस था वो क्या था?
Annulus. It's a ring kind
हाँ.
of structure, beta. It's a ring kind
Yeah,
of
ma'am.
structure. Ring structure like a ring.
Okay, okay.
Actually, this is the part where it ruptures to release the spores. Let me give you an example. आप पता है हम राइटिंग पैड्स या कुछ ऐसा खरीदते हैं तो उसमें एक पार्ट रहता है ऊपर जहाँ पे डॉट 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 पोर्स आर देयर दैट इज एक्टिंग एज अ गाइडर. आप जब उस पेज को टीयर करते हो आसानी से वो फट जाता है फ्रॉम दैट पार्ट.
Yes.
That is the weak part. Annulus is something like that.
Okay, ma'am.
Sporangium, it is there so that spores can be released. So not much you need to remember about them, but I just thought of tell you about like classification of Pteridophyta. These are Psilopsida, Lycopsida, Arthropsida, and Phyllocopsida. These are some examples. Depending on the strobili formation or not, the reproduction, the homosporosity or heterosporosity, they can be classified like this. These are different examples of fern. All of them are unique in their own way. You can see here some of them can be aquatic, some of them can be terrestrial. Now we will last talk about the economic importance of pteridophytes. Pteridophytes are economically very much important. We cannot ignore them. Many cases like Marsilia and other parts of like Sporocarp of Marsilia, which is a water plant, it is full of starch, so it can be used by tribal people. It is used for binding of soil and that way it is actually preventing the soil erosion. अगर टेरिडोफाइट्स डिमिनिश हो जाए तो पहाड़ों पे चलना मुश्किल हो जाएगा because there will be too much landslides will be there. Actually, the major reason of landslide is we are cutting down the trees. Actually, the Equisetum stem, due to its brushy kind of structure, can be used for scarring. That is, it's used as a scrubber to clean utensils, and these are really good alternative. Nowadays, a lot of talk is done about the sponges. Generally, जो ये हम Scotch Brite खरीदते हैं, after using for them for certain period, they get damaged. So we simply throw them in the garbage bin, and most of them are non-biodegradable. So it is increasing the pollution. So now we are thinking about replacing them with biodegradable options. So this can definitely thought as a biodegradable options. Problem ये है, ये natural चीजें बहुत महंगी मिलती है, and as we don't know much about them, people are selling them in high price in Amazon or in Flipkart. That's why generally people don't prefer them, but they are really good alternatives. Azolla is a water fern. It is having a relationship with Cyanobacterium anabina. So these two stay together in the water and they can be used as a biofertilizer. How? You must have studied about composite fish culture in grade 9. Have you ever heard about this word? There was a chapter called Improvement in Food.
Yes, ma'am.
So in paddy field, for proper growth of paddy, you will be requiring lots of water. Okay. And in that waterlogged condition, this anabina and azolla grow, and they fix the nitrogen, which in turn increase the fertility of soil, and it helps the farmers to get a good growth of paddy. Some anti-helminthic drug is obtained from Diopteris. Anti-helminthic means worms. जो worms बच्चों को पेट में होता है, deworming की जाती है by taking medicine. It can be done in natural way by using rhizomes of Diopteris. And obviously ferns are ornamental. आप बुके खरीदो तो उसके पीछे जो leaf होती है, that is of Diopteris only. That is ornamental. So you can see how these plants are taking the rainwater to them, and we are not allowing the rainwater to directly reach to soil and promote soil erosion. See, these are anabina and azole. They are growing in a paddy field and act as a biofertilizer. So many types of fern are used. They can be used as like vegetable, and their sporocarp can be used as good source of carbohydrate. These are different types of pteridophytes, and like there can be equisetum and tubers of isoetes. All of them things can be used as a food. And there are Lycopodium, which is used as a Christmas tree. Silaginella is there, you can see. This is Silaginella and this is Lycopodium. It's stocked as a Christmas tree. Actually, Christmas tree is not this, but in certain area. This is resurrection plant, and it sometimes can be used as a football and played. So you can see how it transformed from dead to living. So here are some examples of source of vitamin, source of medicines. Just thought of telling all these things to you. These are all called Dadi maa ke nushke jo hote hain na. We have such rich heritage of medicinal plants, but we don't think about them. There can be harmful activity like some of the pteridophytes can be very bad weeds. Okay, so they grow in the plant, eat up the fertilizer and water provided to the plant, and it is causing damage, because directly, even if it is not causing any disease, but it is growing in competition with the desired plant. So ultimately it is utilizing some of the resources that is supposed to be utilized by the cultivated plant. There is Pteridium aqualinum, which is a poisonous pteridophyte, and if any cattle or horse eat them, they may die. So that is all about pteridophytes. Now the topic is open for discussion, and if you have any doubts, you feel free to ask me regarding pteridophytes. Beta.